Welcome into Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. I'm Dan McLaughlin, and we are on location. We're with the Cardinals in Cincinnati as the Cardinals have just wrapped up an 11-day, 10-game road trip. It is one of the longest road trips of the season for St. Louis. But it is a long stretch of baseball that the Cardinals are currently in. And we're talking a lot of baseball tonight. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the upcoming St. Louis schedule. Not just the Cardinals, but the Blues as well. It all begins tomorrow night with the New York Mets, and that will be the first of three. That series will include the Keith Hernandez Bud Bash night. After New York, it'll be the first of three with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Cardinals will wrap up the homestand with a makeup game against the Kansas City Royals. The Blues are heading towards the end of their regular season as they will be on the road on Tuesday night against the Colorado Avalanche and then Thursday at home to play the Vegas Golden Knights. So we have a very busy show coming up tonight. Skip Schumaker, who played a long time in St. Louis and now serves as the Cardinals bench coach, will join me momentarily. We'll continue the baseball talk with the Cardinals radio announcer and TV analyst, Rick Horton. Finally, Craig Mish is one of the top fantasy sports analysts in sports today. It's as popular as it has ever been, and a visit with Craig Mish is later on the show. We start, though, by kicking things off with one of my favorites. He's just outside the Cardinals clubhouse, and that is Cardinals bench coach Skip Schumaker. First of all, Skip, great to have you back in St. Louis. Welcome back. What's it been like for you?
Pretty surreal. My family not really getting, my kids were young and they didn't really know what St. Louis Cardinal baseball or the hometown was all about. And for them to be able to enjoy it, it's pretty special to me. Being back with Adam and Albert and Yachty and has been just an incredible experience, and just so grateful to be back in an organization where winning's the priority.
Opening day is special for everybody. Skip Schumaker got a pretty big ovation. I'm not sure you knew that.
It was my kids, my wife and kids were yelling. No, I'm just so grateful. I think that's what's so special about the St. Louis community is the 25th guy on the roster gets the ovation too. And it's not just Albert and Yachty, but it's everybody. So I'm just grateful to come up in this place.
Hey, Skip, what's it like for you to see Yachty, Albert, and Waino still doing it and really doing it at a high level?
Yeah, I think, they're winning players and they've known is winning. And I think, having hit them here, not only to help the young guys understand what a winning culture looks like, but they're not done yet. And I think it's not just the swan song, whatever, their last year, but I think they want to win and produce, and they're helping the young guys like you wouldn't believe. So this thing becomes sustainable for the next 5-10 years. And it's a special group, and they're really good players, but they're even better people.
With Albert, the swing is like the same sweet swing. Isn't it crazy?
I would say I can't believe it, but I saw it in LA and absolutely killing us there. And I knew he had something left in the tank. So it's not too surprising. I guess he's 42 years old, so that's a little bit crazy to me, but there's a reason why he's one of the greatest ever to play the game.
Well, Skip, it's really cool to have you back in town. When you were playing, did you think about coaching? Was this something that you were thinking about in your post-playing career?
I never did. My dream was always to play in the major leagues, never to coach in the major leagues. I think once you get done, you have so much information that you love to pass on, because that's what was given to me. Everything I know, I learned. It's not because I made it up. And I've had some really good coaches along the way, and I just felt like I felt like I could impact some kids. I didn't know at what level. I say kids, and I'm coaching, Adam Wainwright and Yachty Molina and Albert Pujols, so I guess it's not that anymore. But now that I got into it, I just enjoy it so much, and the other side of the game. And as a bench player, you're sitting down and watching the game a lot and learning through some really good coaches and managers. And so I just felt like it was the right move for me. And 6 years later, here I am.
Well, that's great. And I'm sure when you get coaching now in your blood, you think maybe about managing. Is that something that has even crossed your mind, potentially being a manager?
Yeah, it was never been my dream to coach in the major leagues. So it was never my dream to manage in the major leagues. I'm really happy being right next to Ollie, still learning, still growing. getting to be around some really good winning players, learning from them still. So I don't have this like, oh, I got to manage in the future that, or, it's a failure or something. I'm grateful to be here and hopefully win a World Series here.
Well, I've got to ask you, when you reflect on your time in St. Louis, you've got 2 World Series rings. What comes to mind with that? Do you have a favorite moment that stands out for you?
I mean, I think there's personal, selfish moments that you're really excited about, and then there's the team moments that are incredible. I mean, the Albert home run in Houston was a playoff moment I'll never forget. The Scott Rowland big hits, and the Spezio big hits, and the David Eckstein. For me, Adam Wainwright closing out the World Series, the guy that I grew up with in the minor leagues and became best friends with, was one of my highlights. And on a personal level, maybe the Doc Holliday hit, that was maybe my biggest hit in my career. So I think, there's different ways. The favorite moment, the freeze moment everyone talks about, but there's some special friendship moments that I'll never forget. Well,
really simply, you're back in St. Louis. Does it feel like home? Is it back home for Skip Schumaker in St. Louis?
It does. I've said it before, my wife and I kick ourselves all the time not raising our family here, but as soon as I would have bought a house, I would have been traded or released or something. That's just how my life would have worked. But it's just the Midwest people, the lifestyle, the values, that's all, what my family is all about. And so it's coming back to St. Louis, it felt natural. And so I'm just very lucky to be back.
And I'm sure you saw that too when you were in town as a player and what the community did for baby Risa. Obviously very close to your heart and your great friends, the Stutzmans.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to a couple people, a guy named Troy Marisol and our front office, and they were just all in as soon as I said something. You don't know how that's going to go. 10 people could have showed up. You have no idea what's going to happen. When the amount of people showed up and the outpouring of the community, just whether it's text messages or social media, showing up for, I know it was autographs and that kind of session, but they stayed around and really asked about, what Krabbe disease was and how the Stutzmans are doing. And even the Stutzmans feel like they're part of the community, and they've been here like 3 times, so it just shows you what this community is all about.
That's very well put. I got to ask you, what's it like for you to be back in town? You're walking around town, 2-time World Series champion. People love baseball. So what's it like when you're walking around town as Skip Schumaker?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm not this big superstar, like blend in. I'm 5'10", just kind of, blend in with the community. So, but people are super respectful, and I enjoy talking to people about, some of the fun times as a player and now hopefully as a coach.
Hey, Skip, really appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right, love having me. Thank you.
That's Skip Schumaker. Now, coming up here in Cincinnati, we're going to talk it over with Rick Horton, the Cardinals broadcaster. What was opening day like for him? A guy that played here in St. Louis, now broadcasting the games. Opening day, Albert, Yadi, Waino, they're back. And also just the Cardinal season. It's underway. That's next on Scoops with Danny Mac.
Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2 is brought to you by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert, Schnucks, Rottler Pest Control, Stratum Structural Systems, and Hair Saloon for Men.
Welcome back to Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. A reminder, there's daily content on the website, scoopswithdannymac.com. Podcasts, features, articles. If you've missed Bernie Miklasz and his writing, you can see it all daily on scoopswithdannymac.com. Welcome back to the show. Already some amazing moments from the St. Louis Cardinals and special moments, especially when it concerns Albert Pujols. For more on that and the start of this season, let's bring in my good buddy and broadcast partner. He's working on the radio side as well as pre- and post-game shows on Bally Sports Midwest, and that's Rick Horton. Ricky, thanks for doing this.
Oh, Dan, I love to chat with you. You know, we've got such a great history together and so many moments traveling together and talking about Cardinal baseball, and it's always fun to chat with you.
Well, let's start with this opening day. What was it like for you?
Oh, my goodness. Opening day was fantastic. The result was great. I mean, that's number one. We all wanted that, and of course, they're not all like that, but it was just really storybook, really. It was like it just could not have been scripted any better. Everybody's got their own idea of what their favorite part of opening day is, and some people will say the Clydesdales. Of course, that's fun. That's got majestic. I mean, it's just a special thing that the Cardinals do. But to have the Hall of Famers there is just amazing. It really, honestly, mostly made me think of Darryl Porter. My very first opening day, and he came down and he pulled his sleeves up and he showed me his arm, and he had goosebumps on his arm, and he said, "You see that? That's from opening day. And as long as you have an opening day at Busch Stadium, you're going to have those as I had." He was the veteran guy, and he was right. He was absolutely right.
It was an opening day we may never see again. So what was it like seeing Albert, Waino, and Yadi back together?
Well, the day that Albert signed, I just kind of had this feeling that not only would there be some good moments and hopefully on the field, and I wasn't sure what kind of shape he was going to be in. Is he going to be top notch? And honestly, his bat speed to me is better than I've seen in the last few years. So he's getting it done on the field too. But I just knew there would be moments where we all just sat there and just kind of soaked it in with all three of those guys. Different reasons, of course, they're all different guys, but yet they've come together as kind of this beautiful story for 2022. And of course, winning would go well with that story. But I think there's going to be moments that just kind of hit you. Wow, maybe that's the last time we see this. The last time we see him play here. Last time he pitches against that team. Of course, Wainwright hasn't said he's done. I mean, the other two have. But, it could be the last time we see Wainwright also.
It's amazing. Albert is Albert. He looks pretty good, doesn't he?
Well, he's a threat, Dan. That's I think the best part of what Albert brings right now is if you've got a guy hitting behind Arenado who's not a threat, then it's a very different ballgame for him. He's going to get different pitches to hit. They might walk him to face the next guy, but I don't think they're going to do that with Albert. Not right now. I mean, he looks like he is a threat. Now, is he the Albert of age 24, 25? No. He still has that threat, still has the power threat, and he's also still good at putting the ball in play. He's not striking out a lot, putting the ball in play to the other field, to the right side. And, when he comes to the plate, I pay attention, and I've noticed at Busch Stadium, people pay attention. It's a little bit like McGuire. After his at-bat, I saw a lot of people leaving to go get a beer and a hot dog, and it made me think of the McGuire era.
So it's a new manager. Ollie is in the fold. What have you thought of him and what he specifically brings to the organization?
What I love about Ollie, a lot of things I love about Ollie, but he's very calm and he's very honest. He's going to tell you what's what. And I think he's created a clubhouse atmosphere that what I've been saying is it's a very organic kind of ball talk. The Cardinals have done that, of course, in the last few years under Mike Schilt. I think it's been very positive, very helpful. But now it's just a more organic version of that same thing that, the manager has to foster with his coaches, and I think it's happening. I see conversations all over the place, baseball conversations going on in the clubhouse, and it's pretty good.
How about Adam Wainwright, Ricky, at this advanced age doing what he's doing? So how is he doing it?
Well, my idea of what old is has changed as I've gotten older. But in the baseball sense, I think we can say that. In fact, he uses the phrase he takes the old man walks after his start. So he's self-proclaiming that he's an old guy, and clearly he is. I mean, when you're in your 40s and you're pitching in the big leagues, that is unusual. I always try to remind him, and anytime I get a chance to say, I think of Warren Spahn and how good he was after 40. In fact, he got most of his wins in his upper 30s and into his 40s because he just kept getting better, and that's what we're seeing with Wainwright too. I think what I see from him is he's an artist. He's just smart, knows what he's doing, but he's physically kind of a specimen too, because you get to 40 and stuff hurts, and you just don't notice that with Adam. He hasn't lost his athleticism one bit. He seems very kind of composed in his windup. His windup is, talk about a repeatable windup. I don't know if there's anybody in the game that has as repeatable a windup as Adam Wainwright has, and that comes from two things: experience, but your body also has to be ready to handle that, and his clearly is.
Okay, Ricky, as we speak on this Sunday night, we've already seen the Brewers and the Cardinals square off, just happened on this road trip. Do you think it's these two teams battling it out in the Central all year long?
Haven't seen the Cubs yet. I think the Cubs might be better than we kind of all given them credit for. We'll have to kind of see how their pitching plays out. But yeah, I think it's going to be these two teams going after it. And honestly, I thought the Cardinals matched up pretty well with Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee, the thing with Milwaukee is going to be, their pitching is just awesome. They're not off to a good start collectively, but their starting pitching is going to be a separator, no question about that. But is Christian Yelich going to be what he was, or is there a new norm for him? So I just wonder about the offense. Are they going to miss Avisail Garcia? I mean, they might. And how good can McCutchen be? I think there's question marks offensively with the Brewers, but I think the Cardinals, to me, offensively look pretty good top to bottom.
Hey, Ricky, appreciate your time. Thanks.
You bet, Danny.
That's Rick Horton. Coming up, it's a little baseball talk, but a lot about fantasy sports. It has exploded throughout the country. Craig Mish is one of the top fantasy experts in the country, hosts a daily show. We're going to talk about fantasy sports, the impact on sports. That's next on Scoops with Danny Mac.
Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2 is brought to you by Lordo's Diamonds, On the Run, STLTaxLawyer.com, Triad Bank, and Lou Fuse.
Welcome back to Scoops with Danny Mac on Fox 2. Again, we're on location this week as the Cardinals have wrapped up this long road trip and they'll be back home tomorrow. We want to get into fantasy sports and the impact that fantasy sports has made, not just on baseball, but on every single sport. And the guy that's really leading a charge and has been doing it a long time is Craig Mish. Craig, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate your time.
Danny, it's always my pleasure.
Well, how did you get involved with this and where is it going? What do you think about fantasy sports?
Yeah, well, about 15 years ago, I was approached by SiriusXM when they were launching their fantasy channel. And I thought, my gosh, are you kidding me? I can get paid to do something that I already love. And so the one caveat to that, Danny, was that basically they were doing a fantasy baseball show every single day during baseball season. And they wanted to pair me up with somebody and said, by the way, do you know anyone that can talk fantasy? And I said, well, yeah, sure I do. My buddy is Cliff Floyd. He used to play for the Marlins. I called Cliff. I said, Cliff, I have a job for you. And you and I are going to be doing a show on SiriusXM every day talking fantasy baseball. And 10 years later, he and I completed a tremendous run, along with Jim Bowden and a lot of others. But that's kind of how it got started for me getting paid to do this.
So if you could put it in a nutshell, what is the allure of fantasy sports?
I think it gives people the chance that they feel like they're the general manager. You know, Danny, how everyone's always questioning the manager and questioning the lineup. Well, here you are. You have a chance at the beginning of the season to draft your team, create your lineup, and basically prove that you are smarter than someone else. And then, of course, when daily fantasy came about 8 to 10 years ago, that was a game changer completely because the people who didn't want to play over the course of the entire season get a chance to redraft their teams every single day. So the dynamic of fantasy is just getting bigger and bigger.
Well, I'm really curious with this. How has fantasy changed, in your opinion, professional sports?
I think right now, the way that people look at it, it's a moneymaker because everyone wants to be part of fantasy. Everyone wants to be able to sponsor different things. And I think it keeps people engaged, most importantly, Danny, every single day. The season-long fantasy enthusiasts, and if we're talking about baseball, sometimes will check out when football season begins, let's be honest, in August and September. But here, when you draft a different player every single day, it engages you with the league, with the players, and most importantly, with your wallet.
As you well know, all sports leagues were really concerned about the money and specifically gambling, but has that softened because of what we've seen with professional sports and fantasy?
Yeah, this is one of the few things I could say that I was generally ahead of 5 to 10 years ago. The notion that players, by the way, the notion is always that players were going to have some sort of impact on the finances of this, meaning that they were worried, Danny, that a pitcher was going to go on the mound and potentially throw a first inning or throw a second inning, and then he looks at his wallet and he could potentially get paid, what, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to do that? When he's making twice that every game he pitches, it was a ridiculous notion. So now that that's out the window, and by the way, it wasn't in the 70s and 80s, I think that that's fair. But right now, with the amount of money that players make, I think this is only going to get bigger, and half the states in the country now have legalized sports betting, and I would say by 2024, 80% of the states in the country will.
Yeah, I'm really curious about baseball. How has this engaged the young fans and brought them into the game?
Yeah, and I think that that's the next step. I don't think that we genuinely have seen the peak of baseball betting, because pretty soon, in-game wagering to the degree that Major League Baseball can handle this thing, I think that's coming soon.
Final question, how much fun are you having doing this?
I never thought that I could get paid to do something that I love, and that was, of course, covering baseball. Now you're telling me that my analysis as to how many steals a player may get in a night or the season, I can get paid to do that too? And what a pitcher's whip will be at the end of the season? I mean, I just signed a brand new contract for 2 years with Sports Grid, and they've hired me to talk fantasy and talk sports wagering. I have no complaints.
Craig, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
That's Craig Mish. For Craig, Rick Horton, and also Skip Schumacher, I'm Dan McLaughlin. We do this every Sunday, and this time it's on location in Cincinnati. It is Scoops with Danny Mac, and I'll see you next Sunday at 10:30 here on Fox 2.